price, when trying to move from point A to point B, wouldn't just go straight up from A to B. Guys, today we are going to be talking about market structure. I feel like market structure is one of the topics in trading that has been overly complicated, all right? But trust me when I say market structure doesn't have to be that complicated. You only need to understand a few concepts, and then that will guide you in making decisions that has to do with market structure. It doesn't have to be so complicated. So today, that is what I'm going to take you guys through. I'm going to explain and then give you some guidelines when you are dealing with market structure. Because you have to understand that market structure is the basis of price action trading. And so you can't be a price action trader without nailing down the meaning of market structure. So there is something you have to understand when it comes to market structure. You have to understand that price, when trying to move from point A to point B, wouldn't just go straight up from A to B. What price tends to do is price tends to move in this kind of structure, all right, going up and down, up, down. And so we call this low, and then we call this a high. The reason why this becomes a higher high is because obviously when you look, this high that has been formed here is higher than this high, the previous high. And then this low that has been formed here, this is higher than it. So it means this place becomes what? Our higher low. So we have another higher high right here. We have another higher low right here. We have another higher high and then higher low, like that. Now it is just the same thing for the flip side. So this becomes what? Your uptrend. And then the same thing for the flip side when trying to determine your downtrend. All right, you will have this a high, a low, and then what do we have? A lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low. Obviously, again, this place is called a lower high because this high that is here is lower than this previous high. And then same thing to this place too. We have the lower low, and then we have the lower high right here. Same thing to the downside. All right. So now another problem is, how do you identify if a market structure is going to change, or if we have changed from an uptrend to a downtrend in this scenario? So when you look at this clearly, you see we've been making our higher highs, our higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, just like I explained before. And then what happened when we got here? When we got here, we put in our higher high, put in our higher low. But then when we got here, we failed to put in a new higher high. Instead, we put in an equal high. So what I'm trying to say is, first, one sign for you to know that price or market structure is shifting from its current trend to a new trend is, one, by forming equal highs or equal lows, as the case may be, depending on the structure it is forming. And then another sign you will see also is what? A break. All right. So if we look at this, we have this high right here that are pretty much equal. All right. And then what happened? You see these new lows that were formed here, we got a break of it. All right. So it means that this previous low got broken. So that is also a second indication for you to know that price is trying to shift from an uptrend into a downtrend. Now, it doesn't mean that when once price breaks this low, then price has shifted. No, you have to wait to see a confirmation to actually know that price has shifted, because price can easily break this low and then easily go up and then break this high again. It happens all the time. And when this happens, it doesn't mean the trend has shifted. And so for you to know when the trend has really shifted is when you put in this push that broke this low, we see a retracement. We call it retracement. And then you cannot know if the trend is broken until this retracement doesn't break this high, but then comes down to break the new low it has formed. Then in this case, it is clear as day that the trend has shifted from an uptrend to a downtrend. And so from this point onwards, what you should be expecting is this new lower highs and lower lows starting to get formed, just like we've seen. So in this case, this becomes your high in the downtrend scenario, and this becomes your low, and then we have your lower high right here, and then you have your lower low, and then lower high and so on and so forth. So now, of course, it is easy to interpret with drawings, but it can actually be difficult when trying to spot them on the chart. Why? Because as we know, the market is not perfect. Market will always print imperfect patterns that will tend to make things complicated for you and confuse you. And so personally, what this drawing helps me to do is to be able to have that picture in mind when I'm looking on the real chart, because I know that if I have this picture in mind, that I know that market just creates higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and then lower highs, lower lows. If I go to the chart and then everything starts to get complicated, I try to picture this in my mind, and this helps me out. And so what we are going to do next is I'm going to take you to the chart, and then we are going to try and interpret this on the chart just like we've learned here. So it is very important that when trying to identify the structure on the chart, you want to make sure that you work with what is in front of you. You don't have to overthink it. What is in front of you is what you have to work with. And so when we look at here, starting from this place, you see that we have a high, which is very clear as day, and then we have what? A low here. Then we have another high, but it is lower than this previous high, which means what? You guessed right. This becomes what? A lower high, and then this becomes a lower low. And then what can you see again? A new lower high, and then what? This is pretty much like a double bottom, but this is a bit lower. So you can mark this as a lower low, another lower high, and then this becomes lower low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low. So it is very clear as this. So when you start to mark out all these places, you see that it is very clear that we are in a downtrend right here. Now, one thing I want to point out is when you are trying to draw this out, pay attention to only the peaks that you see. Pay attention to only the tips, all right, that you see. Don't try to, because you have to understand that we have internal trend and then we have the external trend. So when it comes to drawing the trend out, you want to work with the swings. That is what you want to work with, all right. Put your attention on only the swings. It becomes very easy for you to draw out the market structure and therefore determining the current trend of the market. And so when we play this forward, you see that okay, we've had a new high that was here, and then we have this low, and then so now what are we looking for? A market to either break this or break this. Until this is broken, we are still in a downtrend. All right, so let's play price forward and see what happens. Okay, you see we put in a new low right here. All right, so this is telling you that we are still continuing that downtrend, and so you keep on repeating this until price decides to shift. All right, and how do I tell you if price wants to change from a one trend to another? By either creating your double bottom or double top, as the case may be, and then secondly breaking structure in the opposite direction. All right. So it's basically a trend line strategy that will be using the third touch to enter into trade. So what this basically means is we are trying to follow the trend, because you hear this in trading all the time that the trend is your friend. And so since we now know how to identify the trend easily, we'll have to use that to our advantage in order to make some money off of the market. So what we'll be doing is we'll be identifying 2 points, and then we'll be waiting on the third point to make trading decisions. And so as you can see here, we have a market that has been in the uptrend for a while, and then upon getting here, we shifted in trend. And what did I tell you to look for in the shift of a trend? You see that we no longer break this high, and then what we do is we rather break this low. And so breaking this low, and then we pull back and then broke this, confirming that this entire uptrend is now changed into a downtrend. And so we'll be waiting on price to come back into the third touch and give us some sort of rejection for us to be able to enter a trade for a sell to the downside, so that we can capture this new trend that is starting to form here to the downside. Because if you remember what I taught you, this is a high, a low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, like that. So we want to get in on the third lower high that it will form, so that we'll ride it to the downside. So that is what we are going to be doing. So all you have to be doing here at this time as a disciplined trader is just to wait and don't do anything until price gets to where you want it to get to before you take an action. Now, boom, we've touched the trend line. Now, like I told you before, you don't touch the trend line instantly and then you start to sell. We will have to make sure that we get a confirmation that actually says this is going to hold. Because if you remember, we can easily touch this trend line and then break and then continue to the upside. So we'll have to wait on some sort of a bearish indication, a bearish candlestick pattern that will show us that price wants to go down. But as of now, we are just seeing some sort of consolidation around the zone. This also is most of the time an indication that price, upon using this force to get here, is starting to get exhausted. Buyers are starting to get exhausted in this zone, and so that is a message for us. But we'll have to see something concrete before we start betting our money on this. And so we play and see. Now you see that we have this big bearish candle after price touched the trend line. We had this big bearish candle, and so you can go in for a sell right here now. Here, put your stop loss above the zone, and then you can target 1:2 minimum. And let's see how this plays out. So you see clearly our TP has been smashed clearly. And so this is how you can capitalize on this simple strategy to make money. You see, we have first, second, and this is the third touch, and then we are in and we've made some money. Now let me show you another example with this setup. All right, so when you see this, you know that we were in a strong downtrend to the downside. How do I know that? This lower highs that was forming up until here, and then we started to see a shift. This last high that was formed got broken, and then we saw a pullback, and then it got broken again here, and so that confirms our shift in structure from the downside to the upside. What we can do next is wait on the third touch here. Why are we looking for buys? Because we've shifted from a downtrend to an uptrend, and so now we should be looking for buys in order to join the trend. Boom, we touched into our trend line. What do you notice when we were coming down to our trend line? The candles started getting smaller and smaller and smaller. What do I say that means? That is an indication that sellers are getting exhausted and we might potentially see buyers starting to take over. But we can't know that until we wait and confirm buyers taking over. So here you see these big bullish engulfing candles. This tells you that buyers have stepped into the market. So when you see the volume that was coming from here to the downside, you see only one bullish candle was able to overshadow all these ones. So that is an indication that buyers are present and they are ready to take the market by storm. We enter for a buy at the close of this candle, put our stop loss just below the last low, and then we aim for our usual 1:2. You can go 1:3, 1:4. That depends on you, but we are just going to go with 1:2. We started in profit, we are in profit, and then boom, take profit, smashed. We've made another money on this setup using this simple trend line strategy, using the first touch, the second touch, and the third touch to make trading decisions. Thank you guys for sticking around, and if you enjoy content like this, don't forget to like and share and then subscribe to the channel for more upcoming videos.